All right, so it's about time. It's a little past time, actually, for us to get started. Did everybody come and get a board? You're not going to need them for a little bit. I'm going to do some talking. We just met. Hello. All right, yeah, if you got, make sure you get a handout. I think we've already talked about this. If for some reason you weren't on the sign-in sheet, come talk to me just so I know. And the boards are not included in your tutorial fee. Please do not walk away with them. If you do want to keep it, we can talk about that at the end of the class, but they're not part of the tutorial registration. I bought them. I am supposed to announce to you that this is the survey link. I will show it again at the end of class. surveymonkey.com/r/PyCon138 if you would like to provide feedback on this tutorial, hopefully when it's done, not in the middle. All right, so welcome to Internet of Things Lab with Micropython and friends. I am Sev, and we're going to spend the next 3 hours having a great time, I am sure. So, yes. So first, I introduce myself a little bit. I have lived in Portland for about 12 years. I'm originally from northeastern Pennsylvania. I've been programming in Python for somewhere around 6-ish. This is the second PyCon that I've attended, both of them here in Portland, which is pretty exciting. My pronouns are he and him, so when you're referring to me, you can use those words. My current position right now is I'm a research software engineer at the Oregon Health and Science University. It's southwest of downtown on a hill. There's these like silver pill-shaped things going up and down. That's the Portland aerial tram that connects most of our parking lots up to the hospital. And so I'm working in a cancer research group there, developing a data management system for cancer researchers and clinicians, bringing together a variety of different data, such as chemotherapy data, genomic data, and other types of patient care information so that we can recommend the best course of treatment for our cancer patients there. And prior to that, I was consulting for a little while, doing software in something called data science that people like to talk about. And prior to that, I was an analog design engineer at Intel, so my formal background is electrical engineering, if you were curious. And then the other thing that I'm excited about is at PyCon here, we're hosting an event in conjunction with the Young Coders. The Queer Trans PyCon organization is going to be putting on a class for Outside In, which in Portland is a organization that helps out with LGBTQ, homeless youth, homeless adults. They're a healthcare center. They're also, just a place, a resource and advocacy group. So that's going to be happening on Sunday. I've also just noticed that my speaker notes are not visible. I'm not sure how to make that happen. Like that, I suppose. Can I put them not in front of you? Oh, what's that? Nope, that's not what I want to do. Well, I would like to put my speaker notes someplace not on the screen. Can you help me with this? Yes. Which one is it? Display. There it is. Thank you. Ah, there it is. Okay. I don't want two mirror displays. Yes. No. Okay. There's some things on some screens and not on other screens. Let me see about doing this. Is that the screen that you see? Okay, great. Back to our regularly scheduled programming. And presenter view is, so we'll bring this over here so you don't have to see it. Okay, awesome. And how do I go back to this, I presume? Okay, great. We're back in business. So that's my introduction slide. Hello. Wanted to make some acknowledgments. Putting together all this hardware and putting the tutorial together was something that I had a lot of assistance with. My friend Joe Fitzpatrick, who is a hardware security consultant at Securing Hardware, let me use his soldering station to put together the WeMOS boards. My partner helped me strip pretty much all of the wires that are on the boards that you're using. You can see that's one of our cats there, who is also very instrumental in helping put things together. So I wanted to acknowledge those folks and their help before I got started. All right. So our agenda for today is, first I'm going to kind of give you an overview of this little project that we're going to be building and a little bit about the hardware that you're going to be using for that. I'll then be giving an introduction to Micropython itself, and we're going to do some basic programming exercises to kind of get familiar with working with Micropython and the web REPL interface. I'm going to be talking about communicating with the MQTT protocol, which is a way to send information between different Internet of Things, different devices on a network. I'm also, once we kind of have a little bit of code built up on our boards, you're going to have the opportunity to take out your board and walk around the conference venue and measure some temperatures, which sounds really super exciting, I know, but that's, get out, stretch your legs, that'll be good. And I'm going to talk a little bit about IoT security, because that's something that I think is lacking when we talk about Internet of Things, is there's not a lot of security that we discuss. And then there's kind of an extra bit at the end. If we have time, we can, we'll be mostly programming between our computers and the boards directly. If we have some extra time, we can start looking at building networks and working in little groups to kind of publish and subscribe between different devices instead of just between your device and your computer. All right, so that's where we're going. So Pinot Noir. I was thinking of how to do a Micropython tutorial in a way that was kind of relevant to the Willamette Valley, since we're here in Portland. And we are known for our Pinot Noirs. If you are Kimmy Schmidt fans, you might recognize Titus and his delightful Pinot Noir getup. So when I think about like Internet of Things and what is this used for, one of our local applications is actually, we have a town south of here called Independence, Oregon, that's looking to become an agricultural technology center of excellence. One of the things they're doing is working with wineries to put sensors out in the vineyards to help them keep track of various conditions as it relates to the temperature, the humidity, what's going on with the crops. I'm going to find my mouse and look at my speaker notes. Thank you. And so what we're going to be doing today is building out these like vine sensors. So that's why your little SSID and your little board says vine on it. So moving forward, I was just looking around at, so it turns out there is actually a product that has been built for this purpose. I did not realize it was from Intel, it just so happens to be that way, but so this is actually an application that is being used, I believe, in Bavaria to track temperature, weather, humidity. You can see over here with a soil sensor of vineyards. So that's kind of the theme of what we're going to be developing here. So this is a picture of one of our local vineyards, the Willamette Valley Vineyard. And so what, if you kind of like think about what each of the devices that you have is doing here. So vineyards, they have vines, rows of vines that are growing. So what I thought we could do is consider that you have this little sensor here, and let's say, your sensor is at the end of a vine, and you're going to be taking measurements on that vine, and together you're going to have like an idea of what the temperature, humidity conditions would be throughout a winery. So that just kind of sets up maybe a little bit motivating story that we can, not just play with bare hardware, but kind of think about how it could actually be a real applicable product. So first I wanted to talk about the hardware that you have in front of you. So this, I'm just going to keep referring to it as the vine sensor. Right here, there's a little, and I have one up here with me as well, there's a little blue thing that sticks up. Well, that's hard because everything on this board is blue. But I think you understand what I mean. The lighter blue thing that's sticking up, this is a digital humidity and temperature monitor, and we're going to be using that to measure the temperature and the humidity. And then this blue thing up here that is our microcontroller. This is the WeMOS D1 Mini microcontroller. I'll talk a little bit about that in a moment. It's using a ESP8266 microcontroller. None of these numbers or names really mean anything. I'm just giving you this information if you're interested. So if you're like, that's great, I don't care, totally fine. And there is an LED. That's on my board, that's on, so that's an LED. Okay, so talking about the ESP8266, it's a really neat little hobby board that a lot of people are using. It has its own little Wi-Fi access point, so we'll be logging into our little wireless networks to do programming today. It runs on a 3.3 volt supply, so that kind of presents some interesting challenges in that a lot of like Arduino stuff runs on a 5 volt supply, so that's something to be aware of. Excuse me, and it has a lot of really interesting functionality, so you can drive various interfaces off of like, this is an OLED display, so you can drive different displays. You can set up a little HTTP server on this thing. It's a very powerful little piece of hardware here. It does have very little memory. It has like something like 4 megabytes of memory. So that's kind of an issue that we're not going to hit in this class, but something to be aware of if you're interested in that in general. So again, this is our digital temp and humidity sensor. So we'll see when we start taking measurements, there will be a light on the WeMOS board that'll blink when you take a measurement. So that's how you'll know that it's actually doing the thing it's supposed to do. And the max sampling rate is 1 second. That means that the fastest you can query and ask for a new temperature is once every second. So we'll be using that later on. All right, and so I wanted to talk a bit about the board. It's the WeMOS board. So essentially this is what's called a development board. You can buy the ESP board, this kind of the silver and black part. You can buy that separately. What we have here is called a development board, and it gives us some nice things that will make it a lot easier to prototype with. So for instance, there is a supply voltage pin. You can see there's 3.3 volts and there's 5 volts. In addition, we can connect directly to USB. So there's an onboard voltage converter that will allow us to supply 5 volts, which is more of a standard, and it will step it down to 3.3 volts for us. So that's a really nice thing. You can just plug it in directly. When I first started working with this, I didn't have a board like this. I just had a bare WeMOS chip, and I had to find this special cable that was a 3-volt supply instead of a 5-volt supply, and it was kind of a pain. So this is nice. The other thing it has is there's a reset button. So if you look where the WeMOS plugs in down here, you will see the word reset off to the side, and there's a very teeny little black button. That is the reset. So this is, you can also just toggle reset here. A lot of times I just end up pulling the plug and putting back in. They're, for my purposes, that tends to be, they're more or less the same, but it's nice to have the reset option. All right, so what is Micropython? So this is the little Micropython mascot up here to the right, a little Python on a microchip of some kind. So it's a kind of like streamlined, memory-efficient version of Python that is for use on microcontrollers, because as I mentioned, we're working in a very memory-constrained environment. So we can't just take Python proper and put it on these little chips. It had to be custom developed to run on a microcontroller. It's based on Python 3.4, which will be good to note that it's Python 3. When you're writing print statements, you need parentheses. That's one thing I always forget. It was funded via Kickstarter, which is pretty interesting. So in addition to the programming language itself, there is a board that you can buy, the Pi board, though I believe was part of that campaign, that is developed specifically to run MicroPython on. Obviously, there are ports, so ESP8266 is one of the ports of MicroPython, so clearly we're using that hardware. That is one of the things MicroPython can run on. And there's a lot of great documentation at micropython.org, which is your go-to source for MicroPython information. All right, so thus we have ended our project and hardware overview, and so now we're going to get into MicroPython introduction, and this is where we're going to start plugging in things and playing with stuff. So hopefully this is where it will get much more interesting. So just to give you an idea of what we'll be going through, so we're going to be discussing first working with the web REPL interface, which is the way that we're going to be doing all of our programming today. We're going to look at some basic functionality, so reading and writing files. Garbage collection is very important, again, with the memory-constrained environment. We're going to look at how to set up our LED and DHT so we can control them. We'll look at some programming basics, such as like defining functions within the web REPL environment. And then we'll look at using web REPL to transfer files to the board and get files off of the board. All right, so the other thing is, if anyone, did anyone download the driver, just out of curiosity? Okay. Yes? Okay. Do you know how to screen into it if you want? This is, okay. Okay. If anybody wanted to use the driver connection, we're not going to be using it, just FYI, this is how you would get into that if you plugged in and you were using the driver. Okay, so let's get started. So we're going to plug in your sensor to your computer, and then you're going to look for your network ID, and your network ID is listed on the back of your board. Mine is Vine7. Now, when you're going to probably see a whole bunch of these little wireless networks appear. In fact, let me go to my desktop here. Oh, yes. Oh, this is cool. I need to take a picture of this just a minute. I should share it with you, too, because it's really neat. I don't know if I can do that. Share the desktop. In display. All right, I'll mirror the display for just a minute so you can see what I'm seeing up here, which is cool, our vineyard. Do you see that? All of these vines. So very important, make sure you are logged in to your specific vine. The web REPL only allows one connection. So if you log into someone else's, that is going to be a problem for both of you. To go back to the slides, you probably are wondering what the password is, because I forgot to tell you before I switched my views over here. The password to that wireless network is Micropython. The last N is uppercase. Everything else is lowercase. So lowercase, Micropython, and then uppercase N. Let me go back over to here. I'll do this. All right. Whoops. Okay, great. So Micropython, make sure you are connected to the right network I already mentioned, and then we will be opening up the web REPL HTML file. I will, let's see, come out of presentation mode here to show you mine. Okay, is that text big enough? Can people read that in the back of the room, or would you like me to make it bigger? Yes. Am I here? Is this good? More? Okay. All right. So now I'm going to see, okay, it looks like I'm already logged into Vine 7. How are people doing with logging into their networks? Bad? Okay. Who needs help logging into their network? 1, 2, okay. Let's see, what's up? Oh.
I got the little blue light, but nothing else is coming on.
Okay. That guy is just not connected super awesome, so let's do that. Whoop. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So that's fine. And then, can you go to your wireless networks?
Wireless networks?
Yeah. Okay, so what is your Vine here? It looks like you're on 30.
Vine 30. I don't know.
Yeah, so can you scroll down and look for...
It looks like it's just using...
Okay. Let's try unplugging it and then plugging it back in and see if it's... Let me pull up on... This is 30. Let me get my... Can you see 30 on there? The... Can either of you see 30? Oh, well, that's okay. You don't need that for this part.
Okay.
So you can just plug in. Yeah, you don't need Mosquito to work at this point. So just try and log into that network. So there should be on there. So look for 17. And that's the one you should log into. There you go. Yep.
He saw 30, but I don't see them.
Okay. You might need to maybe restart your computer or something if he's seeing it and you're not. All right. How about over here? Are you... Did you... Oh, I'm sorry. Did you get it? Or-
Yeah, it seems to have worked out.
Okay, great. Awesome. All right. Yes.
Once we go into the thing itself,
Mm-hmm.
when I do connect.
Right. You won't get that because we're not there yet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay. How are we doing? Do you need... Yes. Okay. Yes,
then not sure where to go.
that's okay. Right now, do you know what number that is if you turn it over?
31.
Okay, so right now, are you connected to 31?
Here?
Yeah. So I would look for, let me see if I can see 31. If you can't see your wireless network, check with your neighbor and see if they can see it. Sometimes my Mac doesn't show it to me. Does it come up? Okay. Yes. Oh, that won't, but you're connected to your, right now we're just connecting to that Wi-Fi. We're not logging into this yet.
Okay, here I need to connect it to Wi-Fi.
Yes.
What is the password?
There you go. And then it's Micropython with uppercase N. So it says connection established. It looks like you're okay.
Okay. So it's MICRO or you?
MICRO. Yeah. So you shouldn't connect to this yet because it'll ask you for a password. That's next. Great. Okay. Yes.
It's still just saying connect. I don't know if I should just.
Oh, that's
continue
fine.
wait
Yep.
over here.
Oh, I'm sorry. I think you should be fine. Sometimes mine does that too because there's like not an internet connection. Can you, if you say connect, do you get anything from there? That should probably connect. I'd try it again, maybe.
Line 8.
Yeah. Yeah. Because,
And I had seen this before, and it just took a while to
Did
get
it?
past this point.
okay. Well, you can see it, and so
Okay.
the half the battle's over there. Okay. All right. So now we're going to go, so open up the web REPL HTML file. That's what I have showing in my browser right now. So at this point, we're going to connect. So I'll disconnect from mine so I can show you what connect. This is a different password. So if you're trying to connect, you're like, the password doesn't work. It's because I didn't tell you that password yet. This password is Python. Let me go back up here. Okay. So this one is, the password is Python, if you can see down here. The letter U, as opposed to the number U, I'm not sure. All right, so you should be able to connect to your web REPL using Python as the password. Let me see if I can make this larger. All right. How are people doing? Are people connected into web REPL now? Yes, no? What's up?
It just says disconnected.
Okay. You're on your Vine?
Yeah,
Okay. Try reloading.
just did.
Okay. You tried reloading the file?
Yeah, I did earlier. So if I reload,
And then try and connect?
try and connect now. Oh, no, I restarted it.
Oh, okay, so it's not giving you, I would reset it or start it and stop it again and see if it gives you,
Pull this out.
yep.
Boom.
And then put it back in and then reconnect and try it again. Sometimes I have to do that to get mine to actually connect
Okay.
via here as well.
Should I disconnect here?
Yep. Well, I mean, like it's not going to really do anything. So make sure you're actually on the network because when it does its thing. Okay, so you're on 18.
I hope that's an 18
Yep, that is an 18.
or an 81.
Nope, 18.
Okay, cool.
Okay, so you're on there and then give it another disconnect, reconnect.
Okay.
Okay, try again. What did you say? Mine was being temperamental a little bit earlier, but eventually it did work. No, I don't think it's a power problem. I think your power's fine because the
Yeah,
light
it's
wouldn't be
not
on. I wish there was something better I could tell you to do than just keep trying.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry about that.
No, no, I tried.
Okay. All right. So I'm hoping most people got into web REPL. Yes? Maybe? How are we feeling? Okay, I see a nod. Yes? No? Yes? No? Okay. All right. I'm going to go forward because it seems like most people here are able to move on. So here's some tips and tricks for interacting with your hardware and also, probably make this go away. Excellent. So hardware is finicky, as a lot of you are finding out now. A lot of times I find myself, when the board is doing something unexpected or I can't log in like I would expect, I will take out the cable and restart that way. I'll press the reset button. You can also use, once you're in the web REPL prompt, you can use Control-D, and that will reset. That will reset everything. It will reset your connection, so you will have to re-log in. You won't be able to interact with web REPL at that point. And then, you know, like I said, when people are trying to log in, check with your neighbor if you don't see your SSID. If web REPL, which I will continue to mispronounce all day long, freezes and won't disconnect, try reloading the page in the browser. And when in doubt, just kind of wait a bit. When I got here and tried to set this up, it took me a couple minutes to actually get it to log in and work a little bit, so you might also be having that problem. Okay, what's happening? Oh, I'm adding slides. I didn't mean to do that. Okay, so pasting code into web REPL. There's actually, there's a couple different ways that, oh, this is just for your browser. So depending on what browser you're using, you're going to have to paste using a few different methods. So with Chrome, it's like your typical controller Command-V. If you're using Firefox, I found that I actually had to go to the Edit menu and then select Paste to get things to come in. And then if you're on Windows Edge, Control-A and Control-V is what you would use to paste code. Okay, so we're going to be obviously copying and pasting code since I'm talking about it so much. We're going to be doing a thing called paste mode, which is you could hit Control-E and it will give you a block to paste in. We'll look at it. Control-E is very close on your keyboard to Control-D, which will reboot. So just be careful when we're doing that. I have also found that when I am pasting content, depending on where it's coming from, and I have quotes around things like strings or IP addresses, that they just disappear. So I've decided they must be getting sacrificed to the quote god, so just keep in mind when you are pasting, you might run into these sorts of things. Web REPL also may freeze, so reload and connect if you need to do that. And there is a command line history. It's very, very short. It's about 5 commands long, but you do have access to a history in here. So let's get started and just, you know, try doing some Micropython, regular Python in the command line. I think what I'm going to do here is pull this out. So I'm going to have web REPL on one side. Alrighty. So you can try printing things, you can try adding things. Let me see here. So if I say like print hello, you should see hello will get printed on the next line. The other thing that I wanted to just go over a little bit was what happens when you do a multi-line option, or a multi-line piece of programming, whether it's like a loop, an if statement, or like a function definition. So if I just do def greetings, and then I'm going to give it a parameter name so I can tell it who I am. You'll notice when I press enter, there's an ellipsis here. So it will indent for you. So at this point, you just have to type more code. And I will say print welcome to Python. And then I'll put my name. Whoops, it went off the screen. All right. You press enter a few more times, and it will just automatically punt you out at that point. So then if I call my greetings function, it might autocomplete. Yep, there we go. I tell it my name is Sev. Then it will say hello to me. So just some basic commands to kind of get started doing some programming here. Okay. So then the next thing that I wanted to try doing with the web REPL prompt is to do read and write of files. So you can create files on this device. You can read files from this device. So you could try, if you have the slides on your machine, you can try copying and pasting. I'll try it, and I'll see if, yes. So as I noted, you can see that it pasted without the quotes here. So if I'm in a situation where I've pasted something into the console and I'm like, no, that was wrong, or I type something, I'm just going to do Control-C, and it'll let me out of it eventually. There we go. And instead what I can try, well, that will probably delete I was going to show you some block pasting. So we'll try doing some file stuff here. How are people doing? Are you able to interact with the board? You're still having some problems? Okay, yes, no. What are some problems people are having? Just shout them out. To your Vine? Yeah. Okay. Other problems? Have you tried either try reloading the page, try power cycling your board. All right. So I wanted to go over the file stuff to give you, yes? The backticks will do it. Oh, yeah? Awesome. So, that's interesting. Thank you. They weren't backticks when I put them in, so it's interesting that they're pasting that way. All right. So have people tried doing this write and read bit here? Have people tried this? Are we doing reading and writing file types? Do I have to go over this? Because if not, I'll just move to the next slides. Okay. Okay, so the next thing that I wanted to look at is there's an OS library that you can take a look, you can remove files, you can see what files you have available on the device. So let's try and import the OS library, port OS, and os.list_dir. So there's a bunch of files on mine because this is what I've been doing for development, but here you can see what you have. Let's see, there's no reason for some of these things to be here, so I'll show you os.remove. And again, microcontrollers are kind of unforgiving, so when you say remove, it's going to remove things. So it will, just a minute, it will be gone. So test2.txt, we're going to remove, and then if I look at lister again, you can see it was here before CA cert. That is now gone due to question. Yes, that's correct. Yep, yeah, so. Got it, okay, that's a good question. So the question was, did this board just know Micropython when I took it out of the package, or was there something that had to be done? Yes, so I had to flash the board with the Micropython firmware to enable it, enable us to program on it. Don't think that if you go out and buy an 8266 chip that it is just going to speak Micropython to you. You need to tell it, so. FYI on that one. Another one is garbage collection. So it's very important in a memory-constrained environment to be able to clean up after yourself. So we can also take a look at garbage collection. So import gc. And then if I do gc.mem free, that's going to show me how much memory is currently free. And so then I can collect garbage, and so we should see hopefully more memory available after. gc.collect will collect the garbage, and then if I look up back at mem-free, you can see that there's a little bit more memory-free available now that I've done the garbage collection. And so I wanted to take a pause here before we get into programming to the pins specifically to talk about pin definition. So you have a handout that has pin definitions on it. If you could grab that. I'm going to grab one from over here. All right. So when we talk about pins, when we're going to program them in MicroPython, that's going to be talking about what are these GPIO pins. So in your handout, you can see that there are a variety of different colored labels for every single pin. That's because depending on how you are referring to this, you could be talking about several different names for the same physical, what to you is the same physical object. So if we were to take a look here, I have in the slides, it's GPIO 16 that's called out in green here. So GPIO 16, if you look at it, it's on the left side of the board. You can see on the WeMOS itself, that is pin D0. The GPIO number for it is 16. So when we're talking about the pins that we are going to program, we are going to be talking about the GPIO numbers. So next we're going to program the LED, and for that we're going to identify pin 16 because that is the GPIO pin. So just as we're going through the class, if you are trying to figure out what pins to use, look at the white GPIO on this handout, and that will tell you the number that you should be using, okay? Okay. So let's turn on the LED, or turn off the LED, actually, they're on by default. So what we'll do is we'll bring in the machine library. So you can just import machine, you can do from machine import pin, like I'm doing here, no quotes. All right, and so you'll see here for the LED, we're saying machine.pin, and there's the 16. So the first argument to machine.pin is going to tell you which GPIO pin you're using to create this entity. And we're going to assign it out because we are going to be assigning the value to it. So if we copy this over, this will define our LED for us. All right? And so now you can turn your LED on and off and have a very slow rave. So I'm going to turn my LED low. So here it is. And it didn't go low. Why didn't that happen? Because I used the wrong pin. So on mine, I'm actually on pin 14. So now if I do LED low, there it goes, it went off. So you can play with pin high and low. People turning their lights on and off. Yes, it's very exciting. Command line rave, yes. Okay. How are folks doing? Okay, okay. All right. So the other thing you can do is you can actually get the value of a pin. So if I get LED.value, I set it to high, so now the value is 1. I can also use value to set. So if I set this to 0, my pin's going to go off again. So that's just a little bit about interacting with pins. The next thing we're going to do is talk about, so we're going to talk about pulse width modulation. That's another way that you can interact with a pin. Pin 16, which is what you are currently wired to, does not support pulse width modulation. If you wanted to try this, you can rewire the pin and move it down 1 slot. So right now it's on D5. If you moved it down to D0, you could try pulse width modulation. Or you could just look at it up here. It's not imperative to what we're doing that you move that around. So if you'd rather just kind of like see what it is, that's fine. So basically this is, we're going to set up a signal to go through and at a regular rate, so you set it a frequency, and then you set a duty, or a duty cycle. So the duty cycle is going to refer to how high within this period that the signal is, or how long the signal is going to be high is what I meant to say. So here we're going to set up, and I can show you this from up here. I have it on pin 14. So if I come here and start defining my PWM, now I'll say frequency. This is 1 hertz. So this is going to be a 1 second period. So I set the frequency, but you'll notice there's nothing happening on my LED because I haven't set a duty cycle. The duty cycle is currently 0, which means it is high none of the time. So I'm going to give it a duty cycle of 500 milliseconds here. And now you see it is blinking at a regular rate. You can change the duty cycle if you want to blink it, if you want it to be on higher or lower. but this is a nice way to send a regular pulse if you want to do that. If you're clocking something, for instance, be very useful. You have a question? That's a great question. It's not like no. If you feel better, I do sometimes, or you can, if you feel better unplugging it, you can do that. Yeah, so that is pulse width modulation. And then if I change this duty cycle on the fly, I might change it to something lower. Let's say 100. See if we can see it. Yep, so now it's a fast blink because I made the duty cycle less. Is it easier to see this way or this way? This way? Okay. So you can see now it's blinking fast. It appears to be faster. It's just that the signal is high for a much smaller period of time. Okay? So that is pulse width modulation. Did people want to spend some time and play with that? Yes? No? Question? Nope. It doesn't matter. The LED is mostly for like just teaching purposes here. We're not necessarily going to be using it in terms of like, you can choose to blink the LED when you measure a temperature or when the temperature changes. That's going to be up to you in terms of how you want to set up your sensor. But it's not like an integral part. So don't worry about which pin you have set here. If you want to play with it, like we don't have to worry about it later on. Other questions? Yes. Say it again? Is PWM configurable? It's apart from the duty cycle and the period, you mean? So set a time for it to stop doing the PWM? Yes, not that I am aware of. So the kind of interesting thing is, I was going to show you how to turn it off. So I'm going to change the frequency to 0. So you would assume if the frequency is 0, it would stop. It's not stopping. So I don't know why this happens. But you can set the frequency to 0. It will continue to blink. It's not until you change the duty cycle also to 0 that it stops. So see, now it is off because I changed the duty cycle to 0. All right. So that's a little bit about pulse width modulation. Okay, stop the blinking. We just went through that. We had to set the duty cycle to 0. Yes? Yes. Right. So if you wanted to do PWM, you need to switch over to... you do have to switch, yeah. So pin 16, unfortunately, will not do PWM. It's just 16. If you put it on any other one of those D pins, then it would do that. Say that again? You don't have to. It's more if you wanted to play with this pulse width modulation stuff, you could go ahead and do that, but it's not required for the rest of the tutorial. Yes? Yeah, because you're on, okay. Is this actually on pin 14? Did you change the wiring? No. Okay, you have to change the wiring. So you'd have to move the pin down. Yeah, but the rest of it's right. Okay. Okay. How are we doing? Okay. All right, so now that we've done a little bit with the LED and just kind of interacted with the machine part of the Micropython library, we're going to import the digital humidity and temperature sensor. Are people done with the PWM stuff, or do you want to stick around in that for a little while longer? Yep? You want to spend some more time? Okay, yeah, okay. Great, good, thank you. We can give you a few minutes to play with PWM. Yeah. Okay, so over here, if you look for GPIO 14, yes, So that will tell you that is D5. So that's the pin on this board that you would have to change to. So right now, it's on D0. D5 is the one just above it,
How do you know it's on D0?
because that's where the pin, that's where the wire is going into. Do you see where the wire is going into the board there?
The green one?
That's pin D0.
Yeah.
Yeah. You'd have to change it so you would pull this wire out and stick it into the hole above it. That's D0.
Okay,
Yeah.
got it.
Okay. How's this side of the room doing? Yes? Okay. Y'all are good? Okay. Do people have PWMs going? Blinking? No? Is it supposed to go all the way in? Yes. Oh, so yes it is. Here. let's,
Just push. Okay.
Yep, just keep pushing.
Just don't wanna break it.
Yeah. Yeah, you won't break it. It'll be fine.
I moved it down, right, one spot.
Mm-hmm.
Is that supposed to be good enough? Or?
I'm sure it is. Oh, you know what? Your poor LED here. I'm sorry, that's my fault. There we go. Oh, there you go. Awesome. Great. I am excited to see all the blinking lights. Wow, look at that. That one has a really high frequency and a low duty cycle, or maybe just a high frequency. Oh, this is great.
I think my duty cycle's how can I do the duty cycle?
Dot duty.
Just dot duty?
Yep. I don't know if you can view it. Try it. See what happens. Dot duty parens and see if it'll show it to you. Oh, it does. Cool. Yes, there was a question over here.
I'm not able to connect after I did the reset.
You're not able to connect at all? So is your Vine
Sometimes it
not
doesn't
showing up?
show up,
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes it showed up after the reset,
Mm-hmm.
and then it says Windows not able to connect.
What number are you on? But you do see it in there eventually?
Sometimes it does not appear. Oh, cool.
I would say in that case, just kind of keep resetting it, or if you're just resetting, try power cycling it, and then hopefully you can get. How are we doing over here? Good? Okay. Awesome. I see some blinking lights. That's why I went into electrical engineering, blinking lights, true story. Awesome. Yes.
Numbers are not matching here.
Okay.
The numbers which are here on the D0,
Mhm.
they are not matching these ones. Kind of
So-
it's,
So, yep, so that one's going into D0 here,
okay.
and you wanted to set it up for PWM? Is that what you were trying to do?
Yeah, I'm like trying to get the.
Right, so what you can do is you can move it up one. Do you see that's to D5 there?
Okay.
If you move this connection here, and then if you look at, do you have the pinout sheet?
Yeah, here.
Okay. And you can look and see if you put it on D5
But
here,
why we are moving the.
because GPIO 16 does not support PWM.
Okay.
It's not a function that pin supports,
So
okay?
then okay, so I move it down and then only this green part I need to move down, right?
Just this, the top part of it.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. It's not blinking, okay,
Right, so D5, right?
okay. And you have it set up on number 14?
Yeah.
Let's see. Oh, I know what happened. So on the breadboard, the way things connect, so row 19 is all the same voltage. We need to move up your resistor because it was disconnected. Whoops. So we also need to move that piece up. Oops, sorry, it's kind of hard for me to do from this angle. But see, they needed to be in the same row so they can be electrically connected. And now if you move the LED up to 22 and put the other side into the ground, which is blue, there you go. Okay, there was a question over here. Yes, no? Yes.
I'm still a bit behind. The web REPL is not playing nicely.
Hmm.
It took me a while to get onto the
To even get onto your thing.
connect to the thing.
Yeah.
So allegedly it is. It waits for a minute, it's trying to connect, and then it like times out or something.
Hmm. And you're on 15.
Yeah.
Um,
So I don't know if it's. I mean, I had problems with here just being on this flavor of Linux. It seemed like I had to mess with it.
oh, okay.
I don't know if jumping on a new board.
You know, I have other boards that I can give you if you want to try it out. Yeah. Yeah, if you're systematically having problems with your board for some reason, there are a few extras So if you want to swap out, so
See
you
if I can
had
Connect to this one now.
15, I'll swap 15 for 42. Okay. Just a minute. 1 to 15. All right.
Two questions. Is there like a frequency range we shouldn't be pushing past?
I have no idea.
Sweet. Second question is, is there like if I want to set up like a loop for like
Mhm.
having the brightness, is there like a sleep type function?
There is. We're going to talk about it in a minute. Import time.
Okay.
If you import time, you can get sleep. Time.sleep. Okay. How's PWM? Is it still exciting, or do we want to move on? No? Yes? Okay. Why don't we move on and take some temperatures? So fortunately, Micropython has a built-in digital humidity temperature module. So this setup is pretty easy. So you would import DHT here. All right. And then I have not filled in the machine pin here because I thought it might be an exercise for you to take a look at your board. And so if you take a look at the green wire on the left side of your board that's going into the DHT, so if you look up and find what pin number, or pin name, excuse me, I guess it's a number, on the board that you see, okay, so I see that's connected into this pin, and I'm going to take that number and I'm going to look at my sheet. I'm going to say, okay, well that pin on the WeMOS means this GPIO pin. Don't shout it out. Give everybody a chance to kind of look it up. People mostly figured out what pin we're... Somebody tell me, what pin are we supposed to connect to? 2. Okay, great. So we'll connect to pin 2 here. All right. So we've set up our DHT, and so we now have to tell it to measure. So this is the neat one. When you execute this measure, watch your board. You should see there will be a light that will flash when you execute measure. So I'm going to paste it here, and I'm going to hold it up so you can see it, and hopefully you will see there's a flash right up here. I'll do it again. No, timed out. Well, the board tried to take the temperature, but my DHT did not respond. So I'm going to poke at the board and make sure that it's plugged in properly and see if... Oh, it looks like it took the temperature just fine that time. Let me try it again. Oh, yeah, there we go. So if yours gives you that E timed out, make sure that it's plugged in. Things might have gotten kind of jiggled around when I was transporting stuff here. So then once you've taken a measurement, then you can query it and say, okay, give me the temperature and give me the humidity. So whenever you're using the DHT, you first have to call measure. So the first thing you have to call is measure. The next thing you would call is what you want to see. So if you want to see temperature, you'd call temperature. If you want to see humidity, it might autocomplete. No? Yes. No? Okay. Did I spell it wrong? I probably spelled it wrong. Thank you. Thank you. I did not use the right thing. Okay. So then I'll show you the humidity. If you're wanting to take a couple of measurements, the humidity is going to be the thing that changes the most. You could also try doing things like waving your hand over the DHT to see if you could get it to change temperature, if you want to take a couple of different measurements. That's an alarm going off. So yeah, so that is, if you want to take a few measurements and see if you can get the temperature to change. So let me try. We're going to put this in a loop next, so that might be a better time to do that. So let's take a look at... So I had kind of like next up for us, I don't think I introduced time yet, to kind of log DHT data. But I wanted to kind of get a feel from the class about how you'd be feeling about, like, this function is you measure the time, the temperature, and the temperature and the humidity, You're going to write the measurements as separate files, print to the console, and pull at regular intervals. I think that's kind of a bit much. I also want to talk about, before we move on to that, the time module. So for some reason, I don't have that in here. Let me put it just at the bottom of this slide. So make this bigger so more people can see it. So there's a module called time. So if you do import time, lowercase I, and then there's a function called time.sleep, and it takes a parameter of seconds. So you would say time.sleep, and 2 would be sleep for 2 seconds, for example. So if I say import time.sleep, it'll just sit here, and it'll return when it's done sleeping. So in this way, you could write up a control loop where you can say, all right, for range 10, for 1 to 10, take a measurement, go to sleep. Remembering that for the DHT, you can't poll more frequently than once a second. So making sure that you're picking at least 1 second. So let's forget about the file output. That's not really important, and we're not necessarily going to be using that. So is there a strike through option here? I don't think so, but you can change the color. I'll just kind of dull that out. So I was going to give, like 15 minutes or so for people to sit and just like work on this function. After that, we can take a stretch break. Everybody can kind of get up and walk around a little bit. So creating a function, I've given kind of a function signature here. I'll take out you can use the files if you want, you just don't have to. I'll kind of color them differently. So those are optional. But do give it a poll time in seconds so that it knows how often to poll. So some things that you might want to use is, sometimes I find if I'm actually writing out code, it's easier for me to use a local editor than try and do it in the Micropython window, because it's kind of weird about formatting and copy and paste. And also, it just, as you're noticing, there's a lag because you're connected over the internet. So you type, and it's kind of a lag. So what I do is in Atom, I would just bring up, do my editing here, and then copy it over to, like here, if I were to set up my DHT like this, I could just copy this or copy a block of code and then put it in using paste mode. So I'll do that just to show you an example. So I'll just copy and paste these. Don't worry about what this means for now. I'll go back to here. So paste mode is Control E. So you see it says paste mode, Control C to cancel, Control D to finish. So I'm going to paste in the stuff that I just copied. And then if I do Control D at this point, it won't reboot. It'll just finish my paste mode. So now my DHT is defined, I guess defined again because we already had it defined, but that's just an example of another way to paste into this console. Yes? You can also upload the file. Great question. So to the right of your web REPL screen, another thing you can do, if I go back up to the top here, where is it? It appears to be off the side of my screen. Let me, there we go. So off to the file, off to the right, there is a send file window where you can choose a file from your local machine, and then you can send it over. You would say send a device, and at the end, it would tell you the number of bytes that it had sent. So in that way, you can send a file over to your device. It will put it in what is the root directory here. So if I go back to my window and I do os.list dir, I would see the file listed here. And if I wanted to import from it, I would just say import star from name that I gave the file. So that's another way you can do it, is you can write it in a Python file, and then you can send it across, and then you can import it. That's another way that you could do this. Okay? Any questions? Okay, so I'll give you a few minutes, and please, work together too. If you're stuck, maybe the person next to you can help, or if you're not stuck, maybe the person next to you is. So just create like a measure temperature humidity function that you can specify how often you want it to poll, and then maybe it like prints out to this console, so you can see what it's doing and get the data. And also when you're running the function, maybe like move your board or grab the temperature thing and see if you can get it to give you some more interesting readings than just the same thing. Let me see. Yes.
Disconnected and I'm not able to connect.
Are you on the right? You're on your network? Yes.
Yes, I am. No, I'm not.
Okay. There you go. Hmm? Oh, thank you for mentioning that. So if you're trying to use paste mode, you may find that you highlight a bunch of text in your text editor and you paste, and it cuts it off at some point. So the buffer for pasting is unfortunately, I don't know exactly how many characters long it is, but yes, this is an unfortunate thing that you might encounter. So when this happens to me, I just note the character that it left off at, and then I go back to my file, and I'll highlight everything, including the spaces, because it will, so if that ended like in the middle of a line. Right, so do you remember where, if you go back to web REPL, where did it write str t? Yeah, if you can copy from that part all the way down the rest. Yes, yeah. Let's see, so this is the timeout on the DHT. All right, so time now. Let me just check and see if, I guess what I would do is make sure that everything, oh, something is amiss here. So this wire should be, oh, I see. So this wire needs to be moved back to where it was. This wire, the top of this, should go in the hole just under this here, and this green one should go into the hole just under this red one.
So just move the green one.
Yeah, just move the green one up. I can show you another board that has it. All right. If you can make it look like this board, do you see where it? So just mimic. Sorry, that was on this side. That you moved it for the. Yeah. All right. Questions? Yes.
Is that because line 2 requires brackets around it?
Say that again.
And that's all.
Line 1. I'm not.
Does this require brackets around it?
It doesn't. No. That looks like that should work to me. Do you know what? If you save that to a file
Okay.
and send it across,
I did that.
Yes.
So after that, I just have to open that file to check.
yeah, so after that, what you would do is if you go into WebREPL, you would say, yeah, don't do that. So back out of that, and then do, what was the name of your file?
DHT functions.py.
So just say import, and the import star from DHT functions, no py. This is saying that the file, or just try import DHT functions instead of. Yeah, it takes a little while sometimes. That might be, check your syntax.
Yeah, send DHT functions. It shows.
Okay. Yeah.
After I import it from here, send DHT.
Oh, it says C, name machine is not defined, so you need to add an import for machine.
Okay.
That's the problem. Okay. Just a minute, let me, yeah.
As I was getting my function here, how do I get out of it? Because I keep
Oh,
hitting
Control D.
Control D.
Yeah, you probably have to select this window, I think.
Every time I hit enter, I have to select this window, it seems.
Okay.
Now it says send it to-
You might have an error in your function. Okay. Yes?
So I sent the file.
Mhm. Just try import, if you called it DHT, just try import DHT.
It's DHT functions.py.
Right, so I would say import DHT functions and see what happens.
It's not recognizing DHT functions.
It might not because it's a new file there. I'd just type it out. Name machine is not defined, so that means that you need to import machine so you can get to the pin. More questions? No? Questions? Yes.
We don't have to remove anything here.
Oh, okay. And you're still having a, oh, great, okay,
I mean,
awesome.
I thought we were supposed to move something.
You did, and you moved it, it was on this side. You didn't have to move this for the DHT, it was move that for the PWM.
Oh, so it's moved there.
Yes, yeah, so you got it, that's fine, that's great. I'm gonna take this back since you're done with it. All right, how's it going over here? Yeah, that's a good question. So if you have uploaded a file, and let's say your file is called test.py, to get that content, you would say import test. No .py, just import test. You can also do os.lister, and that'll show you. More questions on this side? How do you schedule if you want to run it? We will get to that. Main.py. If you want to copy over a main.py, that will do it. Yes?
I would like to put a timestamp in, but there's no C time or anything.
Oh, that's yeah, I do not know if
Well,
there's a
that's only
time
by
module.
the time
Right.
But it's just a second since I started, I guess.
Yeah.
So there's nothing, there's no notion, is there daytime? No.
I don't, yeah, local time maybe? I'm not,
Ah, yeah, okay.
I try that one. Yes. Okay. It sounds like a code bug.
Seems to be stuck to
Oh,
the function that
Control D.
Control D here.
Yes. There you go. So that's how you end the entry, is Control D. Okay. Yep. All right. How are we doing? It's been about, I guess, 10 minutes or so.
That function got imported. DHT function.
Yeah, I know. You picked the same, you found the secret.
So
Um,
once that is imported and the function gets called, how do you actually maybe try to file and print it to the console?
Oh, okay, so if you want to print it to the console,
Onto the file like.
right, you would use that with open file name,
That is great.
and you would do,
Oh, so it's already writing into that file?
no, not necessarily, not unless you tell it to. It's just taking a measurement.
Okay.
Yeah.
You need to call that function with 3 parameters, right? Or
You can use, if you don't want to write to the file, that's fine, you can just give it. But if you did want to have like separate, you could have like file 1 is for temperature, file 2 is for humidity, and then the last one would be the seconds, number of seconds between polls.
Yes, I just do with open outside like that.
Mhm. And you can just write to it like that.
It shows me on the console.
It should, yes. Well, it won't show you, if you do with file write, that goes to the file. It doesn't go to the console. You have to use print.
so when I want to call this function, I need to send these 3 parameters. So it can
Mhm.
be anything.
Right, yes, it can. Yep, that looks great. Say that again? So that, are you trying to take a measurement? Okay, it might be, yeah, can you do it again? Just say M1 and see if it reconnects. Go ahead. Yep. It might just be that because you're using 1 second, it's like right on the edge, maybe. It only pulls 1 second, like that's the max. Good job over here. What are you getting some different values? Waving things around?
The LED, this LED based on the humidity.
Yes.
See the
Awesome.
of the PWM is based on the humidity.
Awesome. Great. Cool. Yeah, it looks like there's a. Oh, you don't want to do. I think if you just do. Just do import DHT functions, and then.
SDF is
Yeah, I don't know if that's why it's giving you a problem, because it just like that. And then I would call, you just measure temp humidity should be there.
no, just my temp. It says the function not recognized.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
It's not defined.
That's strange. I'm not sure what's going on there, but we should probably wrap this part up. Yeah.
So I wrote this thing, imported
Yeah.
it,
Mhm.
and then I did this.
Mhm.
I've got release amp here.
Yep. Press enter. You will press return a few times, and then it will. Yep. Just keep going. There you go.
Outfile is not
You might.
import something.
Yeah, you probably need to give out file a name, or like set it to something that's a variable. Okay. Yes.
Let's say I uploaded the functions file.
Yes.
And found out it had a bug in it.
Mhm.
I had already imported it. How do I re-import it after I
You just
uploaded a new
write
file?
over it. It'll write over.
So I wrote over it already,
Mhm.
but when I do
Ah,
import,
reset.
I have to actually reset?
Yes, you
Okay.
do. Yeah, sorry about that. Okay. All right, folks. So I wanted to give you guys, you folks, a break at this point. Does anybody want to share anything about like the functions that they created, or like? Oh, great. Okay, so breathing on the humidity sensor makes it go up. What are some other things that we've learned working on this? Fanning it makes it go down. Humidity. Got it. Okay. All right. Great. I can show you. This was just measure humidity, just my function for that. As I was looking around, people seem to be doing pretty much the same thing. Just taking the temperature. If you chose to put it out to a file, great. If not, and then you just sleep and wait for this. If you got the GitHub materials, there will be a, let's see here. So in the ESP8266 Micropython, let me just clear this so it's more legible. So I'm in the GitHub folder that I have cloned. There is a folder called code. And in here, we have, there's a main.py that actually implements this. So if I go over to Atom, there's also, I think, DHT functions also does this. So I had one in DHT functions.py that's just the DHT. So if you, we will be using these functions when we're communicating, in the next section. So if you'd like to, if you didn't write a function and you want to grab one from DHT functions, or just move this module DHT functions via the file transfer over to your board, and then you can import from there to read from it, you can do that. That again is if you, well, this was if we had log data, but you can again use this choose file, send file interface to put a file on the board. Okay? All right. Why don't you, it looks like we're close to the, I think we're getting a coffee break at 3. So why don't, because we were pretty much at the end of this part, the main.py file that I had mentioned. So people have been asking, did the board just talk MicroPython or what did you have to do? So besides putting on the firmware, there's a few different files that MicroPython will read by default. One of them is boot.py. So if we go in os.listdir here, there's a boot.py function. So if I do with open.py, if I just read this file and open it, f.read lines, nope. Didn't like, oh, because I said fi. There we go. So this isn't very pretty, but it will show you this file is executed on every boot. Let me pull up a more reasonable looking. So Atom, here we are. MainPy can pull up in code and show you boot.py. So this is importing all the stuff. So the fact that you're able to log into WebREPL by default is because of this boot.py. You can see here that I had the DHT module defined by default. There's another function. So boot.py is called as soon as the on boot, basically. And after boot.py, there is a main.py function file that gets called. And that will further set up your machine. So for instance, I wanted to set up the my.dht. I include, very important to do all the imports of everything that you need at the top of the file before you, define anything or call anything. And then these will all be available to me when I boot up the machine. So I have my DHT already available just on boot. So that was kind of the last thing that I wanted to cover in this programming section, is that if you take your temperature humidity function that you just wrote and put it along with the imports into this main.py file and send that over on WebREPL, then when you reboot the device, your DHT, or if you put the LED in here, all of that will be available to you. You won't have to type any of the code, which is how I prefer to work with MicroPython, because it's, as you are experiencing, rather laborious to try and enter stuff in through WebREPL. Yeah, so are there any questions on how to do that? To do the file transfer over in WebREPL here. So you do choose file. I'll do this. Code. Say it again. I think it's just one file at a time. Pretty sure. And then you'd select this file. I'm not. And then you would say send to device. And once you've sent, down here it would say, in file operation status, it would tell you number of bytes transferred. That's how you would know that it went across. And then if you want to apply it, you will need to reboot your device. So, question? Yes, if the file is already there and you send a file of the same name, it will overwrite it. Yes?
So if you've imported the thing, is there an easy way to reset it if you want to overwrite the file instead of you
You would reset the board? You mean besides reset the board, is there something you can do?
Like you've written your function and you test.py, you want to, import it. Is there a quick way to get the new function imported?
You'd say import test. If you had changed the file, you have to reboot. You can't like reload the import. You have to reboot to get it to take the new one. Okay? All right. Let's go back to our slides here. Okay, so this was kind of the end of the first section of stuff. So it's kind of been like a lot so far. So you've learned how to use Micropython to write files, program. You have an LED that you're programming, reading temperatures and humidity. That's great. And now you're hopefully getting some familiarity with this web REPL interface and all of its quirks. And now you have a sensor that is ready to start taking these measurements, so we can go out in the vineyard and actually get some real data here that we can log. Or in the next section, we're going to see how to send that out and communicate with IoT networks. So at this point, go ahead and take a break. I think there's supposed to be official coffee break at like 3. It's 2:47 right now. So why don't we say come back by 3:10, 3:15-ish, and we can get the next section we're going to go after we take a break. We'll be going over MQTT and Mosquito. So if you haven't gotten Mosquito up and running, maybe talk to your neighbors, talk to me. We will be using that for the next section of the tutorial. So, all right. What's wrong? started pretty soon. One more question. Yes?
Question, I might know the answer to. Just tracking down.
All right. So we're going to jump into doing the MQTT portion of the tutorial. That's probably going to be about the next 45 minutes to an hour or so. So we have our sensor set up so they can actually measure something. That's great, and record it in some way. You can print it or save it to a file. So MQTT is going to help us be able to send those readings to like a central server, so we can actually use it in kind of like a IoT network. We'll be using the Mosquito broker for most of, that's going to be the primary thing that we're going to be using for the next hour. That's going to be kind of like the server that we're going to be publishing these messages to and subscribing from. And we're also, so we're going to kind of start out by using MQTT just locally on our machines, and then once we get that up and running, we will then move over to using it with the Vine sensor. And there's a neat little program, MQTT Spy, that will allow us to watch the measurements come in real time. So I thought that would be kind of a neat thing for us to take a look at as well. All right, so just where we're at, about halfway through. So kind of first thing up, so this is just kind of like a little cartoon to talk about how we're going to be interacting like with the broker. So in an Internet of Things system, you have kind of a centralized server in MQTT. So this is the broker. So this green part here, this is going to be the Mosquito program that we're going to be using that is responsible for getting messages from the publisher. So that's going to be our Vine sensors are going to be publishing and enabling other devices and other entities to subscribe to those messages. So in this cartoon, you have like a subscriber being like maybe your phone, or in our case, a subscriber is going to be our computers. So that's just kind of like a little bit of an overview through that cartoon. So MQTT. MQ telemetry transport is what MQTT stands for. It provides communication by topic. So if you think about it, when you're having a conversation, you came into this room, the topic was Internet of Things. You would expect to be talking about Internet of Things. So similarly with MQTT, if you set a topic, that kind of sets the tone for the kind of information you're going to receive. So for instance, in our situation, we're going to have two different channels. So we'll have the temperature channel and the humidity channel, those topics really. So it'd be temperature topic and humidity topic, and then you would publish relevant data to those topics. And then on the subscriber side, if you were, say, in wineries, they have heaters throughout the vineyard in case it gets very cold and they don't want the trees to freeze. Maybe those heaters would subscribe to a temperature topic that would let them know, hey, the temperature has been at this low point for a while, it's time to turn on the heaters. So in that way, you can kind of decide what parts of your network are going to receive specific messages. So that's kind of like the idea of how topics are used within MQTT. It's very easy to set up, as we're going to see. There's not like configuration files to set for the topics. You just name a topic, and as long as you, the publisher, and the subscriber are on the same page, you will get the messages. It does support passwords and TLS SSL, which is something we'll be talking about towards the end. So Mosquito, as I mentioned, is this broker that facilitates the connections between the publishers and the subscribers, which is this little green thing in the middle. So before we start Mosquito up and running, we need to have a configuration file. So I've listed here a few different locations where your mosquito.conf file might live, depending on the operating system that you're using and where you installed it. So if you're on Mac OS and you used Brew, you're going to want to look in your seller under Mosquito, and then you'll probably have some kind of version like 1.11 something or other, etc mosquito, and find your mosquito.conf. If you're on Linux, it's probably an etc mosquito. If you're on Windows, it depends where you put the Mosquito client, so I'd suggest to put it under program files x86. So take a moment now and find that .conf file. There is going to be a sample one that I have included in the GitHub materials that you will be able to use, but you need to be able to move that file to the appropriate place for it to work. So make sure that you know where this file is. I do know on Windows there is a option for Mosquito-C that you can specify the path to a .conf file. So if you can't, oh, that's right, I'm running it on Brew. So if you can't find it, you might be able to specify it with -C. I'm running through Brew, so my Mosquito needs to know where that is. So I'll just give people a few minutes to locate that. Okay. Have people more or less figured out where their .conf files are? Yes? Okay. Okay, great. So what I'm showing on the screen here, and if you have the GitHub collateral, you will find this file there as well, mosquito.conf. This is a .conf file where we'll be setting up a number of different attributes. So the first line here is we're going to set up a log. So basically, if something's going wrong, wherever you set this log dest parameter to is going to log Mosquito commands for you, so that can be very, and Mosquito, whatever happens with the program. We will be looking at this password portion later on, so right now all that's commented out. One thing that you will want to do is to make sure that you have the listener for port 1883 on localhost, so that is a line that you need to have uncommented, or if you have a stock .conf file, you can just go to the end and just add listener 1883 localhost. You could also use your local IP, which is probably 127.0.0.1. The TLS SSL portion and the certificate piece we're not going to worry about right now. That's something we'll be talking about later. So for now, just put listener 1883 localhost in your .conf. So let's go back and talk a little bit about topics. So like I said, topic can be anything as long as the publisher and subscriber are listening to the same one. Like for instance, this is kind of like a pseudocode, but you subscribe and you say, okay, -topic test. You just put it there in the command line or subscribe to that topic, and then a publisher says, okay, I'm going to publish the topic test. I'm going to send this message as this thing on. And then the subscriber would receive that message because they've specified the same topic test, is essentially how that works. So topics can also have hierarchy. So in this example, I showed it's just one word, test. But you can imagine if you're using Internet of Things like for connected home, you might want to know a number of things. Like, I'm at home and I want to know who opened the door. Or I'm at home and I want to know what the temperature in the living room is. So I might have a hierarchy of information here. So in Mosquito, what we'll be doing is, for our intents and purposes, we're talking about a vineyard, right? So we have a vineyard might be the top level topic, and then under that there could be temp, which would be one of our topics, and then maybe we'd say, since we have a bunch of vine sensors, we'd say /vine sensor, and then whatever number the vine sensor is. How we would actually write that out is on the right side. It would just be all in one line. And then here, the wildcard character for Mosquito is, or MQTT in general, is the £. So if I say vine sensor pound, it's going to subscribe to everything on that topic. So everything on vineyard temperature vine sensor / it will subscribe to everything there. So that's a way that you can listen to multiple topics at once. So now we'll get ready and set up for localhost. So as I mentioned, include listener 1883 localhost, and then start or restart your Mosquito. Question? Mm-hmm. We're going to cover that. So that we will get to that. So for now, update your conf file and then try starting your Mosquito services. So for me, it's brew services restart Mosquito. If you're on Windows or Linux, as long as Mosquito's in your path, or for Linux, just type Mosquito. If you've installed on Windows, go to like x86 program files Mosquito, open a command window from there, and then you should be able to start Mosquito like that. So yes. You would append to the conf file, yes. There's another question? Yes. Say it again. Place your configuration in Etsy Mosquito. I don't think that's the log. A full description of the configure. Okay, so it looks like this is your conf file. So in here, just go to the bottom, and then you would type that. I'll move the slide back so you can see it. You got it? Okay. Okay, so I'm going to kind of try and flip between these two. I have a slide for Mac OS, which probably also would work for Linux, except for the brew bit. And then there's a, well, Mosquito client for Windows and Linux, just a different. So when you're on Windows and you start Mosquito, you may need to specify -C, path to conf file, for it to pick it up. That's one thing. So right now, just start Mosquito. And what that looks like, it's not terribly exciting. So here I just say brew services restart Mosquito. And for me, it's going to say successfully stopped and started Mosquito. And then we will try the publish, subscribe command lines are the same. So in one terminal, you're going to start Mosquito. So Mosquito's been started. And then you're going to find another, open up another terminal window, and in there you're going to set up a subscription. So that would be this line number 2. So mosquito underscore sub dash H to localhost or whatever you're calling your localhost. And then we'll use a topic dash T test topic. So when I execute that, it's just going to hang out. So it's sitting there, it's subscribed, and it's just kind of waiting around, okay? So then if we go back here and take a look at our next one, so in a third command window, we're going to send some messages to this test topic. So I'm just going to copy mosquito.pub, and I'm going to go and get another window here, and I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to send a topic, or a message to this topic. I'm going to say hello world, and then I go back to my subscriber, and I see hello world has popped up under my subscriber. So try sending a few messages. Try getting this set up and sending a few messages back and forth to yourself. All right. How are we doing with the message sending? You talking to yourself in MQTT? Great. Awesome. All right. So the next thing we're going to look at is MQTT Spy. That is this neato little graphical program I'll pull over here that you can take a look at, that we will be using to visualize the messages as they come across. So if I move that out of the way for a bit. So I know on my system, basically I just had to double-click the jar file for MQTT Spy to get that to run. If you are on Windows, there is a file on the USB drives that will help you. If you double-click and it doesn't start and tells you that it doesn't have the .jar file associated with anything to run it with, there's a tool on the USB drives that will help you with that. So when you double-click on that jar file, what you should see is this little. Well, actually, it won't look like this. Let me close it and start it again. So if I go over here, okay. So So I'll show you. I'm over here in my in the GitHub directory, Micropython lab, and I'm going to go under Tools, and there's an MQTT spy with dependencies.jar. And so for me, I'm going to double-click that, and it will bring it up on my system. Oh, popped up over here. And so you should see a window that looks like this. You might see a window that says, hey, you're new to this, you don't have any configs, do you want to create an example config? Just say no, you don't need to do that. So what we'll do is we'll start by going to connection, and we're going to add a new connection. So you can see I already have mine set up for my local host and my Vine, but you can give it a name, anything. So the connection can be any name. The important thing here is you want to make sure that your server URI is pointing to your local host. So it can either be what it's 127.0.0.1 or local host. And then what you will do is say open connection. So instead of creating a new one, since I already have one, I'm going to go back to my local host here. I'm going to say open connection. And so because you have Mosquito running in the background, what you should see is that this tab localhost is green. If it's red, that means it's having a problem connecting. What you can do in that case is kind of go back. You might stop and start Mosquito again to see if you can get it to connect. As long as the IP address between your mosquito.conf and this localhost connection are the same, you should be able to see this window. So once you have the localhost connection up, you can, under here, there's a subscriptions and received messages tab at the bottom. If you click new, we'll say test topic. And you can pick the color for it. So I'll pick blue. And you can subscribe. And now there's a new tab here at the bottom, test topic. So then I'll go back. I'll try and move this over here. I'll go back and publish again. And I'll say hello MQTT spy. And we see that the message has been received down here at the bottom in blue. That's our message that's come in. So this is kind of a neat way that you can visualize. If you don't get MQTT spy up, don't worry about it. This is really just a visualization. You will still be able to see your MQTT communications in this subscribe window on your terminal. So we have MQTT spy set up. We have subscribed and published on localhost. So before we move on from here, I just want to check, how are we doing with this publish subscribe locally setup? People have this working? Yes, okay, great. Then we can move on to doing the same thing, but now we're going to use MQTT on the Vine sensor. So we're going to be publishing from the Vine sensor to the computer, which is something you would do. It's like, hey, I've measured this temperature, vineyard server, and you should know it's 30 degrees by these Pinot Noir grapes, and they will die if you don't do something. Or you could also publish from the computer back to the Vine sensor and say, maybe I don't want you to take the temperature as often or send messages back the other way. So we'll be doing both of these in the next section. So first, before we set up Mosquito to interact with the Vine sensor, we're going to need to know what our network address is on the Vine Wi-Fi. So you're going to need to be logged in to your Vine Wi-Fi, and you're going to want to find out what your IP address is. So for instance, on Mac OS and Linux, I can just do ifconfig, and it's going to show me this 192.168.4.2 address. So get that IP, make a note of it. You're going to need that to restart the client with. And then we're going to go and update the conf file. So again, open up your conf file, and we're going to comment out that line that said listener 1883 localhost. We're going to add a new line that says listener 1883, mine will be .2 now, with that IP address that you just took. So if we go over here, I'll look at my conf file. So here I have my local host. I'm commenting that out. I'm going to uncomment the one that has my Vine IP. I'm going to save the file, and let's see here. Then I will go back and restart Mosquito. Okay, so now what should happen if I try and rerun on localhost, it's not there, connection refused, because it's no longer on here. Okay, so we'll go back here. So we'll restart Mosquito with this new IP address, and now we're going to subscribe to the Vine sensor. So let's say we'll subscribe to this Vine sensor message topic. So this will be on your local machine where you have been subscribing to Mosquito messages. I'm going to put in, I need to change that IP address for me, Mosquito sub to the new IP address to Vine sensor message. So that's now listening. And now we're going to go into web REPL. So sign into your web REPL prompt. Looks like mine is responding here. Great. Whoops, too many tabs. Oh, I know what's going on. There we go. So we're going to import the MQTT client. There is MQTT libraries on as part of Micropython, which is super awesome. So we're going to do that. And then I'm going to say, we're going to just give it a name. So you can give it any name you want. I just stuck with the default MQTT client. And then I'm going to do 192.168.4.2 is my IP address. So in this way, I'm going to create this MQTT client here. I'll put this back up. It's probably much more legible for you to read off of here. So it's C is this connection string here, MQTT client. And then I'm going to connect. So at this point, we have the Mosquito server running, Mosquito broker is running. So I should be able to do cgot connect, which should return 0. Okay, so that means that we're now connected. So now that we have Vine sensor message, let's try publishing. Okay, so we can now send a message and say Vine, whatever your Vine is. So mine is Vine 7. So I'm going to copy this over to my window here. Okay, so I'm going to say hi from Vine 7, and then I'm going to go back to my terminal where I've subscribed, and I see hi from Vine 7. How's this going? Yes? Say it again. You're missing a quote came out here. Before 192, there's a quote that's missing.
Yeah.
Do you see it? There you go. All right. So we're talking to the Vine sensor now, yes? Still working on it? Okay. So what I thought we would do next is sending some basic messages. You know, just say hello. Why don't we start publishing some information to using the DHT? So now that we just did a basic message, why don't you spend a few minutes, create topics, Vine sensor temp and Vine sensor humidity, and try publishing data from the DHT on your board into these topics. And remember, if you brought over that main.py file, you should have my DHT already defined, so you don't have to go through all of the importing and setting up the DHT again. So why don't we take 5 minutes or so and set up those topics and subscriptions and send some data. Yes.
Still getting that case of none. No one missed something stupid.
You're still getting what?
That case of none when I'm trying to do a base connection here. I don't know why that pops up. So I'm able to do the, I did a restart.
Okay. And you're on
Do it
the,
again.
yes.
And I did I'll restart my sub and pub just to verify that.
Okay. So that's,
that won't change anything,
right.
It's a different address now. It's now 192.168. 681 dot, sorry, 4.2.
Is that your IP?
Yeah.
Okay.
Doing the IMU command, right?
Okay, yeah, and so it
It's
said,
everyone's, isn't it?
it probably is. I just tell people to check just to be double sure.
then
Yep,
get
so
a
that's
pub.
subscribing.
And then I'll do a pub of
Mm-hmm.
192.168.1.4 just to verify this piece.
Yep. Okay, so did that go across?
Subscribes here.
Great. Okay, so
But now
you're,
I try from here,
mhm.
and I try doing the UBT.
Can I turn your screen so I can see it a little better? Let's see. MQTT client. C.publish, find sensor. Temp. Did you put B in front of 22 and see if if it wants to transfer it as byte? Probably. See if that works.
What I thought was that it didn't have non-objects as, oh, wait.
Yep, there you go. Let me come over there and take a look. Sorry.
No, right.
There's no.
Calling simple.py, so it is calling some. I just I didn't have a valid connection.
Oh, C.connect.
Oh. Really?
Yes. I bet that's it.
How can I send it? I would like to send from here also.
Mm-hmm.
Ah, yeah, the button the V is missing.
Much better.
Okay.
Can I get this message from there if I send it here? And I see
You can set up, we're going to set up a subscriber next on that, so that'll be next. All right. Yes.
I'm trying to do the publish.
Mhm.
I'm getting them type actually right.
Yep,
I
you're
may have missed
probably,
something on the slide.
we're not doing publish, or I'm sorry, yes we are. Did you do connect? Yes, C.connect is what you're missing.
Okay. I know I missed something on the slide. So
Okay.
that makes sense. Well, thank you.
All right.
What's the syntax for the? Sorry, I lost the screen.
No, that's okay.
Where's the window for the? You're talking about the device. Turn it off.
Oh, the web REPL?
Yeah.
This one here?
I guess yeah. So
Okay.
What's the syntax for the publish?
Oh, C.connect is the first thing you need
yeah,
to do.
so I connected already.
Okay, and then
Search
publish
for the
is,
publish.
and then comma,
After this?
after that, comma, and then the message you want to send.
Oh, the message. Okay.
Yeah, and then it might complain if you don't have it. Try it. Okay, see if that came through. Okay, great. How about everybody else? Publish, subscribe. Working, not working, okay? Yes? Okay, so connections. We haven't connected to our Vine yet on this, just so you know. Right, so if you go to connections, that was for our local host. We're going to set this up next. Okay? Great. Yes. You could, this doesn't have queuing implemented on the, not, say again? Oh, thank you. Yes, no, I thought you meant like the messages went into a queue. Yeah, no, you can, you will publish by topic. We'll get to, did I understand what you asked? Maybe not.
I see the representation of the data on the screen. Right?
Yes.
So I'm thinking just to create some scripts that I can play with later on.
Yes.
How do I put that information into the file?
Um,
Forward and then into a file, or
You can, you could log it using the write commands that we talked about.
question is how to log it?
I would use the file.write commands that we talked about in the Micropython. So when you're sending a when you're subscribing to a message, I don't, other than using that MQTT spy, you can use that and you can dump that to a file. So that you can do, yes. Okay, let's move on from here. It seems like folks are taking temperatures okay. All right, so you measured your temperature, you sent the temperature, presumably, whoops. Okay, and then if you want to connect to MQTT Spy, you just add another, let's see here, another connection. So you can see my localhost connection right now is red. I'm going to have a new connection, or for me, it's going to be managed connections. So setup, one, you can give it your Vine's name, probably would be a good way to remember. And then the only change you're going to make is put that IP address into this server URI and open the connection. Yep. Whoops. Okay, there it goes. So that's connected now. So if I were to send that message again, hi from Vine7, or the temperature, we should be able to go back over here. Oops, I didn't subscribe. Whoops. So I'm going to subscribe to just Vine sensor star, or hash thing. So now when I send the message, there we go. I saw it come through. So now it'll come over here. So again, just make a new connection with your new IP and MQTT SPI, and that here. So here's where you'd put your new IP, and that will enable you to connect to the MQTT SPI. All right. Okay. So now, now we're going to set up the Vine sensor as a subscriber. So now we've been publishing our data and temperature. We're going to subscribe now to something the computer's going to send. So in order to set up a subscription, we need to define a callback. So when we are in subscribe mode, whenever a message comes through, it's going to call this callback. So you just give it a name, CB. The parameters are topic and message. And let's see. So I'm just saying print the topic and the message. Okay. So we're going to define this very basic callback function. And now we're going to have to tell our connection we've already created what that callback function is. So we're going to use set callback. Let me just go back here so you can see. So we're going to call set callback, set underscore callback with CB, the function we just made. Okay, so I'm going to do that over here. And then I'm going to subscribe. I think I was inconsistent with my use of / and not / before the Vine sensor name, so just keep that in mind. I'll take that out here. So I'll subscribe to Vine sensor hash. So I've set the callback. Now I'm going to tell it that I'm going to subscribe. But now I have to tell it I need to wait for the message. So just while true, I'm going to wait for a message. So I'm going to recreate that kind of message waiting loop that we had on our local machines. I'm now recreating that on our Vine sensors. So I'll just leave this up here so you can instead of switching back and forth. Okay. Whoop. Won't let me tab? Probably not. Yes, I did not indent. There we go. Why is it not letting me do that? Whoop. Let me go back here. What was it? Message wait? I can't remember now. Wait message. All right, so now it's waiting. So now we are waiting for a message to arrive. So we'll go back over to Mosquito, and then we can send, if we want to send it on our channels, we can just send some fake messages using mosquito.pub. So I'll just send over this. So you'll go to your command window. And I'm going to publish this to all right, so then if I come over here, oops, I don't see it for some reason. It did not pop up here. It did. Oh, did I subscribe to the right thing? I think I didn't. There we go. All right, so then you see that I'm printing out the topic that it came from, temperature, and 15. So that's how you would send some messages across here. I'm going to take these out since they're not consistent. send another message. All right. So then we have temperature and humidity sent over here. Question. Byte. So everything is transferred on MQTT via byte, so that's why you're seeing the B in front of the things as they come into MicroPython. All right. And then over on MQTT Spy, if you have that up and running, you should see the temperatures that I just sent across, or you just sent across here at the bottom. So that's just some basic publish subscribe stuff. So now that we've talked through a little bit about how to publish and subscribe with our MQTT stuff on the board, we need to update, or don't need to, but it would be nice if we updated that main.py file to, include some of this MQTT publishing stuff. So for instance, we already have DHT logging, so you've already written some functions just to get information from the DHT, maybe write it to a log. I wanted to give you, 10, 15 minutes to add MQTT publishing. So very similar to measure humidity, temp humidity that we just wrote in the first part, but instead of writing to a file, you're going to publish out to those two, to that /temp and that /humidity topic. And another thing you're probably going to want to do in your main is make sure you define your MQTT client. So you'll import the UMQTT like we talked about earlier, and then you'll set up your C connection to main.py. So let me just pull up mine so it's a little bit more clear. So here I have, importing MQTT client. I'm setting up my client. And then what I'm going to give you some time to work on now is basically creating this temp humidity MQTT function. So you connect, get some information, send it out, again, set up polling time. But I'm not going to leave that up there, so you can just copy my solution. So take some time and do that. Let me know if you have any questions. Okay. Listener, okay. Yep. MQTT's running. Okay, great. And that password, that file is saved. You saved the conf file. Okay, great. Okay. See how it connect. Econ aborted. She tried to connect and it said no. Connection aborted. That's interesting. Try it again. So it looks fine to me. It does, yeah. Yeah, taking a little too long. Okay. What I would do is in your local host, you have the tab where you start a Mosquito. I would try publishing and subscribing to this host locally. So like we did with localhost, but just insert that IP address instead. Yeah, so subscribe to that, and then publish to that from your local machine and see if that goes through. There's another question down here. Yes?
I cannot write this as NumPy has no. So this is my code. So I connect to client and have my sensor, my while true. The message, I don't know yet B, so I just encoded it.
Okay.
I'm not sure. And it prints a message. So if you go here, you see the message is a B, with the temperature and the humidity.
Yes.
That's why when I send, but and it says none time. So obviously there's no connection, C is none. Because it gives me the message.
No. So have you done c.connect in your? That's what you're missing.
Okay.
Was there other questions over on the side of the room? No? Yes? I'm going to go grab a. It did, but it didn't come through. Try rebooting your board. Okay, cool. Nope. Mm-hmm.
I have no idea how to, because I couldn't follow it.
Okay.
I don't know what to do with Spy.
All right, so let's go to click on the red tab.
That's where I am.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go to connections and manage connections. All right. So this is your MQTT Spy localhost. Is that the one you set up?
Yeah.
Okay, double click that. Okay. So this is set up to your local host. Are you trying to listen to your board?
Yeah, I didn't work at all so far. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so what I would do is you don't need to send, I'm trying to remember if I had the port number on there, but try changing that over to your 192.168.42. Okay, and close and open down here.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, great. So that is connected. And then if you come down to new under subscriptions and put the topic name.
Something like this.
Yeah, yep. Or you could just do Vine Sensor and /pound, and it would give you all of it. Okay,
Right?
yes. So then if you send to this topic from your board, it will receive it and show it to you here.
Right.
Oh, cool, yeah.
It's
And
coming.
check this, can I use your mouse?
Yeah, of course.
Check this out. So we're going to talk about this next, but charts. And it should bring up a, I was not showing it. I thought it would show me, oh, I see, because you have the tuple coming across. I was thinking, we're going to show if you send them separately, you can graph them. That's what we're going to look at next. So,
I will change it. So it says send 2 messages.
yeah, just send one to different channels. So you could do a temperature and a humidity topic. Yeah,
I would need to change my source code.
you would, yeah.
And now I just say enter the message temperature.
Yeah, there you go. Cool. Yeah, he's got,
But I need to convert it to byte stream.
you do, yeah.
I can just turn it on.
So what I do is I do str and enclose the dht.temperature function, and that will give me,
STR gives you Unicode, it's Python 3.
it passes it through on the MQTT client.
That's what I thought too.
Yeah, I mean, like, it does work
But
for,
I was surprised about that. 'Cause
yeah.
I actually tried doing byte arrays, and it was like, no, it couldn't handle the byte array.
Oh, interesting. Oh, that's,
It takes a Unicode string.
huh,
Because it's str.
that's funny. Weird. Did you have a question? Okay, all right. Let me see here. There we go. Okay, let me go back to main apply temp humidity. Right. All right. So as you're kind of going through and writing these functions, I wanted to show you kind of a neat thing that MQTT Spy can do. So I have it set up so it's subscribing on my Vine sensor. I'm going through and running my temperature and humidity sensor measurements and sending it across. And I've set up MQTT Spy to listen to that Vine sensor channel and everything on it. And so you can see my messages are coming in down here. So if I right-click on the content in my subscribed messages, So you right click and then you bring up this auxiliary menu. There is a charts here, and if I say show payload values for browsed topics, this will bring up a screen, and you can watch all of your different topics in real time as they come across. So that's kind of a neat thing. If you want to kind of look and see how things are working, or see if I can get it to change the temperature. Oh, there we go. Something happened. Right. All right, how are we doing with this part? Some questions? Okay. I'll get you after. It's not detecting Vine. So you need to put 192.168 in there. I'm going to go help him. I'll be right back. All right, question?
Yeah, I'm having issues connecting just in general, and my friend is too.
Okay, let's see.
But, yeah, so I have my config over here. The listener
Yes.
is the 192.168.4.2.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to connect. Let me configuration. So I mean, first of all, this thing is reporting.
Okay, so first of all, that is, you want to get that fixed first.
Okay.
So it says econ aborted. Can you publish and subscribe to 192.168 using your local command windows? So that would be the first thing I would check.
I don't think so.
Okay. Mm-hmm. It just wasn't working on the spy,
spy.
but it was working for everything else?
No, it wasn't
Okay.
working anywhere.
Wasn't working anywhere.
From
Okay.
spy, that's local, so right.
It depends how you set it up.
Yeah, they're both having the same issue.
Okay.
So if I connect to
4.2.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So it's subscribing, and then you should be able to, in your other window, publish to that topic on that same host.
Okay.
168 test
You got
sub.
different-
You have
different
different topics. Yep. Dash T dash M. Oh, what is dash I that you're using? Oh, I think I see there's a problem here. Okay, so dash T is for the topic.
Mm-hmm.
So your topic is debug.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the one that you're listening to? Okay, yeah, it is. Dash I should just be a name, but you don't need that. Try taking that out and seeing if that helps. And you have Mosquito, you restarted Mosquito on the new 192.168 server?
I'll stop it and restart it.
Okay. Yeah, try it without the dash I. Okay.
Like that.
Mm-hmm. That's strange.
I can load up my
Do you have a log?
config. Yeah.
Log test, yeah. Okay, so what is it? Interrupted system call.
Instead of just copying it, just change the listener to your IP. See if that works. Take it one step at a time.
I don't know what that interrupted system call thing is. Is that you killing it? I'm not
Maybe.
sure,
Let me
yeah.
tell that file. Ah.
You do or did? Didn't work? So now I'm trying to go into,
Yes,
try going
restarting.
on 192.
Okay.
And then I'll try to
Yeah.
subscribe. And I'll try to publish.
Mhm. Try -P 1883.
Okay.
Does it, like, specify the port? Are you signed into your Vine?
I am right now.
You are. Okay, then that should be working. Huh. Well, no, that's if it's not working here, I don't think it's going to work there.
Yeah, I was making sure that it was.
Mosquito Pub. Yeah, I don't know why that's.
That's okay.
Yeah,
You can-
sorry about that.
No problem.
Okay. All right. Are you?
So if you're, you just
Yep.
have to, topic, you can do anything.
You can. You want to do it down here. So you subscribe to. So you would type in like Vine sensor, or whatever your topic is.
I have run that command over here, the function, and
Mhm.
whatever the information has to come on the window over here.
Yeah.
So, so how do you?
You need to send it again, and then it should come in if you look at the window. Over here on Vine, if you click on that tab, you have the same topic. So make sure you have the same
Okay. So
between the two of those. Yes.
So I imported main, right?
Yeah.
And then I'm trying to run this function, but then it's not fine.
You shouldn't have to import the main. It should just like pick it up.
Oh,
Like if you reboot, it'll just pick it up. What is the function you're trying to? So you're trying to get temp humidity. So if you just type temp_humidity, it can't find it. I think maybe because you imported the main like that, try restarting and then try pulling this in. And you did just do os.lister to make sure that you brought in the.
Yeah, I have it.
Okay, I would restart it and then try to find that again. Okay. All right, folks. How's it going? Yes? Okay. Mhm.
my messages now.
And that's an uppercase V.
Yeah.
And this is also an uppercase V? Okay. I need to turn that off. I would double check and maybe make another subscription or kill this one and make sure that you are using exactly the same case. Or if you have to use Vine, and if it's /message, you have to have that exact thing.
So I have to type /messages.
/message or /pound. Oh, okay. Right click on content and charts. I pulled this thing out of my face. Okay, right click. If people want to see that chart that I have up there, if you go to your subscriber window, let me just do it up here so people can see it. Let's see here. So if you're trying to find this chart that I'm showing up here, I'll find my you come down here to your content area, and you right-click. Sorry, this is kind of like, let me squeeze this down and bring it up here. So if you right-click where your content is coming in for your messages, which I now can't see, here, right-click, charts. And if you're browsing multiple topics, show payload values for browse topics. If it's just one topic, show for this topic. I'll try and leave that there. Okay. Yes?
But I was having issues trying to actually publish a message.
Mhm.
So I got everything up until this point.
Okay.
So when I went to go create the topics, I wasn't too sure. You're not really supposed to do anything at that point, right?
Not, well, this was just, yeah, for you to try it out. Just,
Yeah.
yeah. Yep.
So then I got down here.
Mm-hmm.
Said I set up my sub accordingly, then I published. I did measure, try to publish it.
Yes.
I didn't get anything back. So my last message is like when I did that debug.
Okay, so that went through. And then where is your...
Do you register topics?
Nope,
anywhere?
you do not. You just...
agree upon the
Yep,
topic.
exactly. Whoops. Yes, just like when you're talking with a person, you just make an agreement. Yeah, it's very informal. Show me your web REPL. Wait, let me understand. You're talking about communicating with the board or communicating on your...
From the board down to the
Okay,
terminal.
got it. Okay, so you're sitting there subscribed to 192.164 Vine sensor temp. Got it. Okay.
And then I also have that guy sitting here listening point 183.
Yep. Great.
And my message was, so my last publish was
This is my fault, and I'm sorry. I was really inconsistent with my / in the beginning of Vine sensor. So if you go up in your command line history and just take out that first /, I think that will fix your problem. Man, I went through and edited these. I'm sorry. I edited the slides and missed those. So,
But then I thought that we did it when we did the fake
Okay.
messages.
okay, great. Okay. Yes. Okay, you good? All right, so, okay, at this point, hopefully you've had time to take some temperatures and make some charts and do other awesome things. I believe we're about ready for our last break. So we have, maybe half an hour left in the class. So if you were interested in having all of this stuff when you boot up, there is a main Pi that I've mentioned that's in the GitHub materials that has this temp humidity MQTT pull time that will send, oh goodness, we'll send all of this stuff across. I apologize for my inconsistencies on the temperature and humidity topics here with my missing or not missing slashes. So at this point, it is probably time for another break. So I thought it might be fun, now that we've seen how to send messages back and forth and how to collect information, if you would like, you can take your little sensor, and I have a couple of batteries, and I have a couple of USB bricks. So if you have a power brick, this is another thing you can do. Exactly. So can you stand up and show people that? So if you have a power brick, you can do this. I thought it might be fun to just send you out and to find some temperatures. And if you want, I listed here so you can come back and maybe share if you logged data and you want to show it with the class, if you have a graph, if you happen to walk around with your computer, which normally I wouldn't tell you to do, but we have solid state drives now, so that might be okay. For Android, there's a very neat little, if you have an Android phone, there's something called IoT MQTT dashboard that you could download and set up just like we've set up MQTT Spy and walk around with your phone and see the temperatures. And there is also a Chrome extension, MQTT Lens. Might work if you have Chrome installed on your phone, I'm not sure. But I just wanted to give you some time to go stretch your legs, and then maybe if you want to take your sensor with you, do that, and maybe come back and we can look at some data or not. Really up to you guys, folks, what you'd like to do. So that was what I had kind of anticipated for doing next, and giving you 10 minutes. It's 4:15 if you want to come back around 4:25. If you want a battery, or if you need a brick to plug into, I have a couple over here, so come see me. Or if you just want to get up and go walk around, that's cool too. So we'll just meet back here at 4:25. Okay. To this? I'm not. Micropython, uppercase N. Take care. Oh, you need to give that to me. Yes. Thank you. Get started. We just have about, I don't know, 15 minutes left or so. And I did want to kind of go over the IoT security part of things because I think that's important to discuss. So I saw this somewhere on the internet. I thought it was funny. IoT, the S stands for security, right? Because that's the thing that's missing. So I really wanted to cover a little bit of this. So security for MQTT. So MQTT supports passwords, which is cool. It also supports encryption. So what I was going to talk about mostly is kind of like a very high-level overview of transport layer security, or TLS, which is kind of like the follow-on to SSL, which uses certificates along with public and private keys. And so Mosquito and MicroPython support both of these things. However, as far as I understand, currently MicroPython does not yet validate certificates. So you can say, here's my certificate, and it's like, okay, cool, but it's not actually going to do anything. So it's not actually secure, but I still wanted to kind of talk through like what you would be doing, when that feature is built in. And I think given the time involved, I'm not necessarily going to go through all of this in Mosquito and set up all the passwords and stuff, but just kind of talk through these things. So Mosquito has the capability to set passwords. They actually have a password file, a password generation program that you would say, I'm going to give you a path to where I want the password file kept. I'm going to give you a username, and then it would generate that for you. And so you would then say in your conf file, I'll switch back over to mine, and you can see, you would say here you would uncomment allow anonymous false because we're going to require a password now. And then you just say my password file is over here, go get the password. So that's how you would set up mosquitoes with mosquito, singular. Hopefully there's not mosquitoes in here, that would be sad. So then if you were to actually, I can probably just do this really fast and show it to you here on my local host. All right, so I'll restart Mosquito. And I will listen in on localhost to test topic. And now it says connection refused. It says connection refused because I set a password. So now I'm going to do this thing where I'm like, okay, great, I am so secure because I just set a username and a password. So -u sev -p, well, guess what? I get to tell you all my password now. So the password is Python. Oh, maybe it's not. -p, just kidding. I thought it was Python. Oh, that's why. Maybe. Let me try this again. Wow. localhost, yes. All right, now I'm listening. Okay, I gave it the right password, so it's going to let me listen. So now to test topic. Test topic, again, I'm going to try and say, send a message, and it's not going to let me until I copy over my very secure setup here and say, okay, fine. I will use this username and this password, and then it will allow me to send my secure message, hello world. So that's how you would set up with Mosquito to do that. And then, of course, on the Micropython side, you would also, you could do the same thing, try and reconnect with Spy. It's also going to kick you off because it's like, look, I need a username and a password. So if I go into MQTT Spy, if I come into my localhost configuration and I say, say manage connections, so I have a localhost TLS. I'm going to say for localhost, I'm going to turn on my user authentication. So here where I'd say, you can either say ask before connecting, or you can give a predefined username and password here, and that will enable MQTT Spy to connect securely to the network. You'll notice it also takes TLS. We'll talk about that in a little minute. And then on the Micropython side, for the username and password, that is supported, and that is checked. If you look at the constructor for MQTT client, you'll notice that there are parameters for user and password. So you can, on the MQTT client side, when you are creating your client, you can create a secure client, MQTT client, and give it your username and password, and then it will run in a secure fashion. So we have these passwords, and we're setting them up, and then we're doing this thing where we're sending out our passwords to connect to these brokers over like an open Wi-Fi network. So that's maybe not the greatest idea. So now is where we want to introduce the transport level security into this. So basically, to make sure that you are sending your messages over an encrypted connection and that you are sending these username and passwords. So just very high level. So this is a protocol that provides secure communications. There's this use of these entities called certificate authorities that give you a trusted, basically guarantee that you are getting the information from the people that you said you're getting it from when it comes to sharing your keys. There's a really nice little, this web address here. They do a really nice job of giving a kind of high-level overview of this stuff. So just to kind of give a little bit of information around encryption. So you might be familiar with this idea of public-private key encryption, where you create a key, you keep a private key, but you share this public key, and that can be used by people who want to communicate with you. The problem with this is these man-in-the-middle attacks where you're sending out your public key. Well, what if somebody intercepts this key, gives somebody the wrong thing, and then you have this man-in-the-middle situation. So what TLS does is it introduces this idea of a trusted third party, a certificate authority, that's going to verify, and in this case it's Sue and Joe, and this certificate authority is going to say, yes, in fact, you are receiving this from Joe. I am going to guarantee that that is true, so then you know and can be assured that your connection is in fact secure. So in real life, do not be your own certificate authority. No one is going to accept your certificates because why should anyone believe you? What I had set up is that we would create our own certificates and do that for the purpose of prototyping and doing development. But in real life, you would need to go through a certificate authority that is recognized, such as Let's Encrypt. So Let's Encrypt is a certificate authority. CertBot is one of their approved certificate providers, so they would be the mechanism through which you would go to actually get these certificates. So I'd included a shell script that you could use that would generate certificates for you that you could then copy over into your Mosquito directory so that you could set up secure encrypted communications. And that's when we would come over and turn on all of this TLS stuff that I had commented out previously. Okay, here we are. So for TLS, typically, if you want to note that your MQTT connection is secure, you would use 8883 instead of 1883. And then you would also identify where you have put the various certificate and certificate authority and key files on your machine. So that would then tell Mosquito how to go about generating the secure connection. So then this was just some command lines for if you wanted to publish and subscribe, you now have to say, this is my, the certificate authority cert is here, and you also have to specifically specify the port at this point. You can't just leave the port off, you have to specify the port. Same thing if you want to publish. And so as I mentioned, in MQTT SPI, there is also support for using TLS. And then again, you would say select certificate, CA certificate, and client certificate key is what you would be using. TLS 1.2, I believe, is what Micropython supports by default. You had something to say about that. Okay. Got it. Okay. So great. Yes, thank you. So keep that in mind if you decide that you want to play with Mosquito at a future date and you are working on a Mac, you're going to need to upgrade your OpenSSL. So let's see. So this is, I would say, IoT with some security, because, right, we generated our own certificates. That's not how you would do it in real life. But I thought it would be good to kind of go over that piece of things. So that's just a little bit about IoT security and how you can secure the communications that we have been learning to do here in this tutorial. So at this point, we're basically out of time. The only other thing that I was going to do is have you all connect to each other's boards. But that is not. If you would like to do that at another time, that would be a fun project to do, since that's a little bit more realistic in terms of how an actual IoT sensor network might behave. So at this point, let's see. I'll skip this extracurricular section. So thank you. This was a big tutorial and a lot of material to take in all at once. So let's cover what you've learned. So you've learned how to program the ESP8266 microcontroller using Micropython. You've learned how to use the MQTT protocol to communicate through IoT networks. You know how to now take temperature measurements using a board. You have some idea of how you would secure your IoT network, so you would not go out and build yet another unsecured IoT product, hopefully. And hopefully you enjoyed yourself. I have in here some sources for further reading, depending on if you were interested. This is the MQTT simple source code somebody had asked me about earlier. There's other interesting stuff here. And so thank you. Really appreciate your attendance. If you did want to keep your board, come see me, and you can square me $12 or something. That's how much I paid for all the parts for the board. And again, if you want to do the survey for this tutorial, here is the SurveyMonkey link. I'll upload these slides to the GitHub repo so you can get to that. We have 5 minutes left. If anyone has any questions, I'm happy to take them, but you're free to go. So thanks. Thank you. Yes. I would imagine that if you're going to be far away from your access point, you're going to have to put in some kind of repeaters. You might also set up some kind of a mesh network where you're communicating messages. You can imagine setting up a chain where somebody is subscribing to things that you're publishing, another sensor, and then that's going to forward that on. So that would be, those are some potential ways that would happen. I mean, yeah, if you want to wire up, yeah, if you have a cable, why not? Yeah, sure. Oh, yeah. Yeah. That I'm not familiar with. I know those sensors tend to be, they are wireless. I don't know much about the underlying network that they are relying on. Yeah. Yes? Version? Oh, I don't know. All right. Also, please bring your board back and check off that you've dropped it off. So, yes. Yeah. Great. Awesome. That's good, right? Yes. Yeah. If I understand you correctly. You said you can see them, not that you can't. Oh, no.
That's not good.
No, that's not good. Let's see here. Okay.
So actually I powered it off,
Okay.
and I believe I reset the that. Where's the reset?
Okay.
Well, actually I pulled the whole cable, so I thought it's powered off, right?
I'm going to give this back to him and come back so I can...